If there was a way you could use your paintbrush that would kind of elevate every stroke you put on the page, you'd want to know about it, right? We spend a lot of time thinking about where to hold our brush, but have you ever thought about how to hold your brush and how your fingers actually come into play? Maybe you've heard someone on YouTube talk about brush handling skills. When it comes to brush handling skills, really it's about how we're paying attention to our whole hand, including our fingers, and that's really what it's all about. Sure, your fingers grip the brush, and usually that's kind of where our thinking stops. But what your fingers do with the brush can change everything. And that's what this video is all about today, the brush twist. So first we pick up our brush and decide, do we hold it in the middle, towards the bottom, out towards the tip? But I like to take it a step further. I want you to think about how you swivel and twist that brush in between your fingers as you're creating a brush stroke. Let me show you what a difference thinking about this particular detail of holding your brush can make. Today I'm using Canson XL watercolor paper, the Art for Joy's Sake watercolor palette, and I'm going to be using a 1/2-inch dagger and a No. 6 round brush. We're going to go ahead with a simple modern watercolor rose, and I'm going to hold the brush and treat the brush like I see many of you. Friends, I've been teaching for years. I've taught in person, I've taught in Zoom classes, and I see how many of you are holding your brush, and this is when it occurred to me. You're being rigid. You're really not leveraging the entire hand that is at your disposal. I mean, it's your hand, right? So use all of it. Think about how you can twist that brush and how that can add tons of personality to your stroke. So here, I mean, there's nothing wrong. This is a fun, fresh, loosey-goosey, modern, loose watercolor rose. But let me show you what happens when you start to add a lot of twists in between your fingers to paint the same brush strokes. Now, I'm gonna think about literally swiveling the brush in between my fingertips as I make strokes. Notice how I'll wiggle as I go around and make those arc-like strokes of the rose petals. Notice how I will literally just twist and let that brush rotate in between my thumb and my pointer finger. Let me show you that again. I want you to look at where the brush is hitting the knuckle on my thumb and how I'm using the leverage of the brush against the base of my pointer finger to subtly twist and swivel that brush. And just look already. Now, are the differences like remarkable, shocking, like you're Rembrandt now? No, but this skill, this little add-on is gonna give you that much more power every time you put brush to paper. But I like to have a lot of tools up my sleeve that I can use exactly when I need to use them. What I've noticed about this twist and swivel technique is that it gives me brush strokes that are just full of personality. What do I mean by personality? It allows me to make marks that are more interesting, but without a ton of extra effort. I like this twist and swivel technique because it also gives me really interesting variety of line quality without really thinking too much. Because let's be honest, when you're in that kind of flow, when you're kind of losing track of time and you're just painting and having fun, the less you actually have to think specifically about the technique you're about to use on the next brush stroke, the more joy you're gonna find in this experience. So practicing this twist and swivel technique is gonna help it become more natural, and it's just gonna kind of happen and become part of your technique that you can draw from whenever you need it. Let's compare the two and you can see what I mean. The rose on the right is the one with the twist and swivel technique, and it has a little more depth, has a little more spunk. Let me know, head to comments and let me know if you see a difference, and be honest. I want to have a conversation about this. And while you're at it, if you're enjoying this fun little technique and you feel like it might add something to your painting, give this video a boop. That's a like, friends, and it really helps out my channel. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing with a No. 6 round brush, friends. I'm using my No. 6 round travel brush. This one is of my own design and I'm still working on it. And if you're watching this a year from now, hopefully it's available and the link will be below. All right, so I'm just kind of straightforward using this brush. I am not twisting or swiveling in between my fingertips. Nothing wrong with these leaves. They're interesting. I'm still doing the press, drag, and lift. And if you want to know more about press, drag, and lift. I'm gonna link a video below. And like I said, they're fun. There's beautiful leaves. They're pretty, they're passable, they're all the things. But let's take a look at how these leaves change when I add in the swivel and twist. All right, even within the first 3 brush strokes where I start to add a little swivel and twist, I'm noticing that my leaf shapes are a little more lyrical. They seem to be dancing or almost twisting a little bit like the breeze was blowing. And I think that's at the heart of what I'm talking about. With this little trick, it gives life, a little extra oomph to every stroke you put down on paper. Now, like with anything, too much of a good thing can sometimes be too much. So like I said before, this is a little trick that you're gonna pull out multiple times during a painting session, but it's certainly not something I'm telling you to use all the time. Because honestly, you could probably see by now how using a more straightforward handling of your brush, in addition to the twist and swivel, can make things even more interesting overall. All right, now let's look again at how my brush is acting, where the pressure is on the knuckle of my thumb, where the brush is resting on the bottom of my pointer finger, and how that swivel action is happening. It's honestly extremely subtle. So really take a look at what is happening with those 2 fingers and my brush. Friends, head into comments and let me know, have you tried this twist and swivel thing? Maybe you didn't have a name for it. I'm curious. And if you haven't, are you excited? Like, are you running for your supplies and you're gonna give this a go as soon as possible? I'd love to hear whether or not. Now you'll notice that I tend to hold my brush pretty far down on the handle, but this twist and swivel technique can work when you're holding your brush at any point on the handle, even at the very tip, so give it a try. Now that you're feeling all inspired, I'll be honest, this technique shows off the best with greens, leaves, greens, fillers. So this video is going to be the perfect way to practice this new technique. And until next time, friends, I wish you a whole lot of happy twist and swivel painting.